Okay, so we're on to Unit 1, Lesson 4, Measure and Classify Angles. So our objective for this lesson is to do three things: be able to name, be able to measure, and be able to classify angles. So what would be helpful in order to do that is to know the definition of an angle, first of all. So an angle consists of two different rays with the same end point. A little typo here. The rays are the sides of the angle. The end point is the vertex of the angle. So in this angle to the right, this angle has sides AB, ray AB, ray AC, those are the sides, and the vertex is point A, okay? Vertex is point A. So we can name this angle two ways. And the way you name an angle is essentially you take points. 3 points usually we'll use to name an angle. So we could name this angle BAC, or we could go the other direction and name it CAB. So the vertex is always in the middle when we name our angles. So that angle could be named BAC or CAB. We could also name this angle just by its vertex, angle A. Now, that's going to be useful when we only have one angle. But when we have more than one angle, we're going to need to name it with the 3 points, okay, 3 letters. So we can name it using point A, the vertex, but you're going to see in the first example, that's not going to necessarily help us differentiate. So, in example 1, this example, I want you to name all 3 angles in the diagram. There are 3 angles in this diagram. So I'm going to kind of try and go through and name these each separately. So the first angle I can name, I'm going to use 3 points, A, B, C. So one angle I can name is angle ABC. You could have named that angle CBA. That would be the same exact angle. So either way, it's the same angle. We make sure we make that, you see that little symbol to the left of ABC? That's this universal symbol for angle. So that means angle ABC. Next, I'm going to name another one. I'm going to go from C to B to D. So I could name that angle CBD, using B as the vertex. And then the final angle I could name is angle ABD. ABD, not C. ABD. So if you notice, for each of these angles, B is the vertex, and they all have different sides. So it wouldn't be helpful to just name each of these angles angle B, because that wouldn't be specific enough. So make sure that you're paying attention to the points you're using and that the vertex is always the middle point in the naming of your angles. Moving ahead, the protractor postulate is a lot like the ruler postulate. So what we can do when we're measuring an angle with a protractor is if we're measuring angle AOB, we look at this and we count from the inside, okay? We count from these inside numbers. So this angle of AOB, the measure of this angle, or BOA, I guess you could name it that as well. The measure of this angle, kind of hard to tell, but it's a little bit more than 110 degrees. So let's say that's 104 degrees. Again, I'm counting on the inside. Right? If I was counting the other way, this way, I would count from the outside. So just the ability to count on a protractor. So it's the difference in the 2 rays, and the measures on the 2 rays. So we're going to get an example of that next. Okay. So this example, it's a lot of angles, and then we're going to talk about classifying also. So I'll kind of go through that as I'm explaining this. So the first angle, and I'm going to draw these so I can follow them. WSR. And it's kind of hard to tell where that lies, but if we look at it, this angle is 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. I would say that angle is about 65 degrees. And we can classify angles essentially 4 different ways. Angles can be acute, which means that they are less than 90 degrees. Okay, less than 90. Angles can be right. That's when they are exactly 90. Angles are obtuse when that angle is between 90 degrees and 180 degrees. And the final way we can classify them is we call it a straight angle. And that is essentially just a line. So that's when an angle is equal to 180 degrees. So classifying this first angle of 65 degrees, that angle is an acute angle. Okay, it's less than 90 degrees, between 90 and 0. But we're not going to deal with any angles that are negative. Okay, all our angles will be positive. So I'm going to erase that one out so we can count the next one. Right. So TSW. I'm going to follow this T to S to W. So it hits at that same spot as WSR, but we're counting it from this side. So we're counting on the inside of these numbers. So that means that this angle would be 115 degrees, right? Making it obtuse. It's between 90 and 180, okay? So we don't just say greater than 90. We say it's between 90 and 180. That makes it obtuse. The next angle, okay? The next angle, RST. R to S to T. If we look at that angle, we can count this from the inside or the outside. When we count it, it's exactly 180 degrees, making it a line, making it a straight angle, okay? So that one was fairly simple to classify, okay? And then the last one, you probably can kind of predict what it'll be, but VST, V to S to T, we can count that one. It is 90 degrees, making it a right angle, okay? Exactly 90. So this is a good reference for us to come back to classify. So when I ask you to classify an angle, it's one of those 4 categories: acute, obtuse, right, or straight. So moving ahead, some kind of independent practice here. These got it's 1 and 2. I want you guys to take a second, pause the video, and in a few seconds I'll show you my answers and I'll sort of explain how I got to those answers. Okay, so just to quickly explain these two, this is a lot like one of our first examples, naming the 3 angles. I've got, first I went with FGJ. You could have named that JGF, it would have been the same angle. My second one, I named it JGH. You could have done HGJ, that would have also worked. And then FGH is this biggest one here, and I could have named that the reverse, HGF. So that works either way. So 3 angles, you can name all those. In the second part, what type of angles do the x-axis and y-axis form in the coordinate plane? Well, I drew a little xy axis for you right here, and if you look at it, it forms 4 right angles. Okay, 4 right angles. So the xy axis forms right angles. We call them perpendicular, but we'll get into perpendicular angles a little bit later. So right now is probably a good time to just move ahead in the lesson to the next step, and then practice this a little bit using whatever activity I have for you, and then you'll be able to move on to video 2 for some more math-centered examples. These were more vocabulary-centered. So move on to the next step in the lesson.